And it went, and it went, and it went bang.
I don't care what safety features you got on a car. If you drive like a twat.
But do you really want the same muppets?
Artificial intelligence is on the rise and human intelligence is
on
the
the
decline.
It gets to that rev limiter quick. We're doing some miles an hour.
I'm late for work and my fuel light has just come on, so I'm going to be even later for work.
In this video, everyone, worst tech ever added to a car or bikes, of course, as we tried to do on most of our podcasts, if not all. I'll bring the car element in. Ac's going to bring the bike element in.
Yeah, but it won't be a bike thing because I drive cars as well.
Go on then.
I think it's called lane departure.
Okay, and that's good because it's not on my list, so there you go.
But the point is, I'm guessing it's because I went over a lane or changed lane without using the indicators. I'm guessing that must be the precursor for
That is
turning it
exactly
on.
what it is, yes.
Fine. So what happened when I hit the white line?
Well, some cars do it differently, but what happened on yours?
My God, not only did it beep, but the steering wheel started to bloody fight me. It started to fight me.
I suppose the logic of the technology is it's trying to wake you up because it thinks you've drifted off.
And I'm like, I know what I wanted to do. I didn't indicate because I was all else surround.
Yes.
And it's like trying to bloody fight me. That is not a safety feature. That's a what the hell is going on? You can bloody crash your car feature. That's just ridiculous.
I guess I've not studied any data that might or might not exist, but the argument would be how much has it improved safety versus how much has it caused problems like the one that you're just suggesting there, and which one balances out which. But it's not I'm not a fan of it, and I'm guessing, did it default to on every time? Do you have to turn it off every time you get in the car?
I don't recall. All I remember is every time it happened, it was just like, but it didn't happen that often because I realised I need to put the indicators on all the bloody time, even though there was no one else around.
And therefore not necessary.
Yeah, agreed. Generally didn't know what the hell was going on.
Something's took over my steering wheel, which in itself is concerning.
Yeah,
that electronics and computers are going to be taking over a steering wheel.
Hashtag Skynet.
Yeah, is that the way we want to go?
No, God no.
I believe that manufacturers, or at least some, are starting, maybe because people are moaning, I don't know. I think the legislation suggests that it has to be automatically on when you turn the key and you have to turn it off.
Yeah.
But I think what the manufacturers are starting to do is make it easier for you to turn it off. So that kind of still appeases the European legislation, let's say, but it makes it easier for the owner to be like, no, I don't want that, thank you very much. My first one was fitted to the, do you remember the 7-seat Grand Picasso I had? I had two, actually.
Yeah,
I had a blue one and a red one.
I remember the blue one.
Okay. We was out one day with some friends and we'd parked up at some, I don't know, posh, what do you call it, National Trust type place. And this setting that I'm going to tell you in a second that I thought was good, but done my head in. I was looking for stuff in the boot of the car to help with, I guess, the picnic or whatever we were trying to set up. Plus, it kept trying to rain, and the door being open meant obviously it was keeping the rain off. I'd got the setting that if you waggle your foot under the bumper, the door opens or shuts. And I get the logic. You're coming out of the supermarket with this theoretical arms full of stuff, or the DIY centre. You've got no hands-free. What do? We've got technological answer for that. Waggle your foot underneath, the door magically opens, and you put all the stuff in. That's great. But if you're Mr. Biggs and you're fumbling around the boot of the car and it's starting to rain and you're starting to flap a little bit and you're like, I've got to get this stuff, where's this stuff? And you're moving around, I moved the foot and the door's trying to squash me into the... Now, obviously, yes, it's got a safety feature. It realised it had hit my head and it had stopped. But it was just blooming annoying. And I turned it off. And I never turned it on again. It's one of those things with technology where, okay, there is some purpose, but it looks good on an advert, doesn't it? Oh, look, this car can do this. Or it looks good on a supermarket car park if you're one of those people that are looking around first to see if anyone's looking, and then they see that you can magically open the boot and it gives you some kind of fizzy head that you've got a car that can do it. I turned it off. Next.
I think it's called TPM.
That's one of mine, but carry on. I've stolen one of yours before in these videos. It is called TPM.
Yeah, tyre pressure monitors. Now, I can't comment for cars because I've got it on my car, but I haven't got it set up or turned on.
Okay.
And I don't see the point in having it on a motorbike. And
So you can get them on a motorbike then, obviously.
Yeah, you can.
My naivety thought maybe you couldn't.
Yeah, you can. Some bikes, depending on the cost, will have them automatically. Some you can like choose when you spec it up to put it on.
Okay.
I don't see the point, purely from a simple mechanical stroke maintenance point of view, as I will give my bike a once over, or all the bikes a once over, before every single ride.
Okay.
And one of that is checking the tyre pressures. So why do I need? I don't see the need. I can't understand, you know, if you're losing pressure when you're out and about, you want to know. But the only way you're going to lose pressure, really, if you get a puncture. And if you get a puncture, there's so little you can do about it anyway, really.
But is it good that you get a warning because it knows before you know and before it's very obvious on the bike? I don't know. Because I guess if it's a slow puncture, you may not notice straight away.
Yeah, no, agreed. And you can actually ride a bike.
I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate with you, but actually I don't like it either, but go on.
Yeah. I don't know, now you actually ask the question, what do I want to know? I've never really been in that situation where I've needed to know. I just think it's another piece of technology that's just there for the sake of...
And if that technology goes wrong, and there's a warning light on, in the UK at least, the MOT will fail you if you've got a warning light on. So
really?
Yes. You can't have a warning light on in the MOT.
If the system's faulty?
Yeah, it can't pass an MOT because the system's faulty. So it's yet another cost to get it fixed, of course. Oh no, you can't have a warning light on. So that was on my list, and I think the only thing I would add to what you've said is, with a car, okay, maybe a bit different, and okay, there's 4 tyres, not 2. Simple maths. But if I take my Clio RS as an example, I agree that with low profile tyres, if they're losing pressure but not completely flat, they can look like they're fine.
Yeah, same with bikes.
I get that. So that's fine. What I don't like is they seem to trigger the warning, which, let's be honest, certainly for me in a car, if I get a warning light illuminate and or a beep, I'm on edge. Something's wrong. I don't want it to be wrong. The Clio sometimes decides to throw a wobble and put a TPMS tyre pressure warning on. There's nothing wrong with them. My argument is, have the sensor, but don't have it so sensitive. So in other words, if I've lost 1 PSI or if there's 1 PSI difference, I don't frankly care.
Yeah.
If I'm 5 or 10 PSI down, give me the warning. But because it does it because there's some slight difference, or because for whatever reason the sensor's throwing a wobble, it's just giving you something to worry about, which, let's be honest, had the light not have gone on, I wouldn't have thought about. Electronic handbrakes. So I've owned not 1, embarrassingly, but 2 Ford C-Maxes, okay? I've owned other cars that have got electronic handbrakes, but the C-Max was the first one because it was the gear spec. They had the electronic handbrake. And on the first C-Max I owned, that was fine. On the second one, there's a little story, and it proves one of the main reasons why I don't like electronic. What was wrong with the lever? Why is it that as humans we have to keep coming up with more complicated technological answers when really the simple solution of pulling a handbrake works?
Evolution.
It's not though, is it? It's almost 2 steps forward, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back. So on this particular C-Max, it had a fault, and it was an intermittent fault. So the Ford dealership I would take it to didn't get to the bottom of it. That fault was sometimes, because if you took the key off, if you took the key out of the ignition, the handbrake would automatically come on. And I get that, it's electronic, you've not put it on, it will go on for you. Sounds fantastic, all pink and fluffy. The reality was, because there was an intermittent fault on this electronic handbrake, you'd hear it come on, because of course there's still a mechanical element to it, it's pulling the cable and it's pulling the handbrake on. You'd hear it go, as it pulls, and then you'd hear it stop, and then you'd hear, and then another, and then you'd hear a bang, and it was a proper loud bang, which I assume is some safety thing where it's pulled it too far,
It's gone pop,
and it's released it.
Yeah.
A funny little side story to that, I was on a B&Q car park once with this car, and as I pulled up, you got to that point because it was intermittent where it's like, is it going to do it today, or is it going to work? So pulled up at the car park, there was a lady just getting into her car next to me. You can see what's coming. I turned the key off and it went, and And it went, and it went bang. I think she lost one of her 9 lives, shall we say. She jumped. It was such a chronic bang. So I remember the very last time before I got rid of the car, I took it back to the Ford dealership again. You know how I said it's intermittent, and we all know what it's like when you've got a fault with a car, and then when you take it into the garage,
there's nothing wrong with it.
It doesn't do it. It pretends it's all pink and fluffy. I took it in, I pulled it literally in front of the last car parking space before the door you go into the service reception. And thankfully it went bang. And as I walked through the door, the guy just looked at me and went, "That's not right, is it?" What's your next one, Ak?
Good question.
Consult's list.
And this is a car one. I've got another one later on, which is a joint car and bike one.
Okay.
It might be different for cars and bikes. But anything inside the car, any warning feature that makes the car beep and or flashes a light.
Yeah, okay.
I'll give you 2 examples. There's one on my current car, which I've not got to the bottom of, no matter how much I fanny around in the control settings with turning this on and turning this off and whatever. Randomly driving down the road, it just occasionally goes beep beep.
Okay.
And I don't bloody know why.
You don't even know what it's telling you?
No, it's just a noise.
Okay.
It's just a noise.
That's a new one. I'll have to go out with you and try and work it out.
Sometimes I think it's because I'm going into a lower speed limit.
Right.
Or sometimes it happens, for example, when on my
it
road
could be.
here, I cross over the M1 on a bridge, go over the M1.
And it does it there?
And it does it there. So maybe it's that. I don't know, but I'm not 100% because
wonder
it does it at various other times as well.
Because my Clio, which is basically using the same electronics as your car, because Renault and Nissan are joint, does do a beep beep. And that is for cameras, ironically, on mine.
Well, no, I've not linked it to cameras now, especially when I go over the M1, there's no cameras.
But has
there.
it got built-in sat-nav?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what mine's doing, you see. It knows on its sat-nav that the cameras are there.
But anyway, don't like that. And the other one, with regards to the flashing lights, it had something, again, linked to, it wasn't actually lane departure in regards to like fighting the car. But with regards to you wandering, it has got sensors which I've turned off on the wing mirrors. But to notify you that you're
Blind
wandering, maybe it was blind spots there. Well, maybe, I don't know.
Is it like an orange light or something?
Yes,
blind,
an orange light
spot.
inside the mirror
It's a blind spot.
that just flashes.
It's basically
And I'm
saying
like,
to you, you've got a car here, so do you really want to...
I have eyes, I have mirrors. Unlike most people, I've considered myself quite observant and I look around quite a lot and I use my mirrors. So I know if there's something there. I don't need to be bloody told.
But this is part of the, dare I say, dumbing down of society, isn't it? Where we're making things easier and easier or more alerts. And,
As a driver or a rider, I am arguably wholly responsible for anything that happens or I get involved in when I'm in that car or on that bike.
Very true.
Even to a degree, and there'll be a lot of people who argue with this, a road traffic accident.
Yep.
Because nobody, there is, unless you're on your own and you ride or drive like a tit, there is very little that you are wholly 100% responsible for, or should I say conversely, that you don't have a degree of responsibility for in all accidents.
And to be fair, a lot of the electronics, even Fran's Peugeot that she's got now, when you first turn it on, it gives you some kind of generic warning on the screen that basically says you have got technology in the car, but it's still your responsibility to drive safe, etc., etc.
And it was just, quite frankly, distracting. So of course I turned it off. But what worries me, going on from what you're saying, is the driver or the stereotypical drivers that the car manufacturers, or arguably the government, feel need to be mollycoddled because they don't know how to drive properly.
Dumbing down. And the problem is, cars are becoming, there's a whole different subject really for a different podcast, because cars at the same time, of course, are becoming safer and safer, and people are becoming, shall we say, feeling more invincible inside the cars because, let's be honest...
GTA.
Yeah, well, because you've got to be really doing something stupid to die now in a car, that it causes people to drive even faster. And the brake performance is better, so they're braking later. It's all encouraging.
Well, the issue with all of that fundamentally is, I don't care what safety features you've got on a car and a bike, you will never, ever, well, not with the current technology that the human race is blessed with, be able to overcome the laws of physics.
You cannot.
So I don't care what safety features you've got on a car. If you drive like a twat, when the road surface is not up to it or the inclement weather is not as it should be, I don't care what safety features you got, you will crash your car, kill someone, or
Totally
roll
agree.
it or something. Same with a bike.
Totally agree.
So these safety features are really only there to bring you back into line if you're driving or riding within the legal scope of driving, riding and limits and all that rubbish anyway. If society's been dumbed down, so when
Which
they
we
hear
are.
a warning, they think, they
you
start
could
to panic.
Yeah, conversely, I guess, further down the line, you could argue that it'll just become blasé and you will ignore it anyway. So then you've kind of made it ineffective anyway
Yeah.
because it's like, yeah, it does that. And then you just carry on.
Yeah.
My next one is stop-start. Now,
I haven't got it on mine, but
I've got
we'll
it on
talk
my-
about
I've got it on my
car in a
Clio.
minute, but go on.
Fran's got it on the 108. I've got it on my Clio.
Jesus.
Now, I understand the principle. And I also understand that the starter motors on stop-start vehicles are beefed up because obviously they're going to get used more because the electronics
okay.
are cutting the engine. I also understand it won't function if the battery level itself is not sufficient. I get it. It knows what it's doing and it will only do it at the right times. Fine. I'm not a fan of hearing a car having to restart, particularly in traffic all the time, which is exactly what it's going to do because that's what it's designed to do. I don't want the engine switching off at all. And in my humble, I haven't looked at the data, in my humble opinion, for what bit it's saving, for the type of journeys I do at least, it's just another button that I turn off as soon as I switch the car on. Because of course it defaults to on, both
You've got
in the
to turn it
108
off. and
the Clio. And you know when they say about muscle memory, my muscle memory is I start the Clio with that button and I press that button over there to turn the start. Now, there is a slight caveat to that, and I don't understand why it's Peugeot, Citroën, and people, leave your comments below if you know other manufacturers that do this. The Citroën Picasso that I had, the PSA group car, so obviously Citroën and Peugeot, they have a much funkier system for stop-start. I think it uses something to do with the alternator, and the alternator spins it over. Basically, you don't really notice it restarting because you don't hear a starter motor. It's very smooth and it's very quick, rather than hearing the standard starter motor sound that we all know and love. Those I kind of understand because it's not disruptive to anything. You literally aren't really hearing it start. It just sort of, you go to pull away and it's just running again. Really clever system. Probably more expensive if the alternator fails because yet again it's another gadget to go wrong.
Yeah.
But in principle, I get in the car, I press that button to start, which is a whole different discussion because I don't like keyless cars, and then I press that button to turn the start-stop off. Over to you then.
Well, this is a bikes and a car thing, but TFT screens.
Okay.
From a car thing, I think they're completely distracting. I mean, I can only really comment about Tesla screens because apparently they're like the size of this TV.
Yep.
I can't talk about other cars because I haven't got like a car with a TFT screen in it. Whereby everything is on the TFT screen. But for example, just very briefly about me and cars. Coming from a period of time whereby everything had a switch or a knob and you could do everything by feel.
Yes.
You can't do jack by feel now because it's all on a bloody TFT screen. Yeah. I even, for example, putting a radio on or the heated seats or...
It comes back to that muscle memory. You know where the
aircon.
You know where the button is.
Which means you have to take your eyes away from driving to operate the thing. So I think they're completely frigging dangerous from a car point of view. Yeah. From a bike point of view, that's different because we don't tend to use the screens to operate controls we need whilst we're actually driving. Yeah. They tend to be on the handlebars.
There's not much ventilation on a control.
But aesthetically, because I grew up at a time with analog clocks, even if you got a TFT clock with an analog display on it, it's just not the same as having a proper old school rev counter.
In a way, I hate dashboards in cars where they try and pretend to be an analog clock.
I know what you mean.
If it's going to be electronic, just be electronic.
Yeah.
Don't pretend to be an analog clock.
Agreed. So yeah, TFTs I think is the bike thing is obviously cosmetic for me, but from a car perspective, I just think it's quite frankly dangerous. So what do they expect you to do? They expect you to pull over? No one's going to pull over. There are people who still have shaves and put their makeup on driving to work.
I think if the ventilation is treated as, which it is, important, and it's on the main screen always, you could argue at least it's there. But I have had vehicles, and the Citroën Grand Picasso...
But you still have to look at it to operate it.
And the Grand Picasso, it wasn't necessarily the first screen. So then you have to press something to get to the ventilation screen. And I think that is a big no-no.
Yeah, I mean, even my car doesn't have a TFT screen. It doesn't have proper sticky out buttons like my old Toyota. That had proper sticky out buttons, so you literally could operate everything. Whereas my new car, it's got buttons, but they're kind of all flat buttons, if that kind of makes sense, with little notches in them to know that you've got the button.
That you're in a separate button.
But it's not the same as having different knobs and buttons.
It's not as tactile, is it?
Well, not only that, but they're all different shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
And because of the position, you'd know exactly what's what. Whereas now they're in a bank of buttons.
They're all kind of just...
And it's like, oh...
blending into each other.
And I do, when I drive, to actually change things over. Even though I've got it down now to literally just a quick glance, and obviously I'll do it when it's safe to do so, I still don't like having to take my eyes off the wheel, even for a split second, when there's sod all in front of me, it doesn't matter, to operate something that I shouldn't need to do, shouldn't need to take my eyes off to bloody do it.
I get it. I guess from an R&D point of view, it's a lot cheaper, or maybe not.
I don't know.
Probably is a lot cheaper not having to produce all these different buttons and stuff, because you've got to design the buttons and produce the buttons, etc. Whereas, of course, software is software. I know software is still expensive, but ultimately, you've got a screen that probably can be used on lots of different vehicles.
Oh,
at
yeah,
least the software
absolutely.
can be used on lots of different vehicles.
Yeah.
So I kind of get that. But then, all your sticky paw prints...
I can imagine it probably looks like your phone screen unless you clean it, or your glasses.
When
in
you've
this
got
case.
the OCD at the
It's
level
just when
you've got the OCD at the level I've got, within 3 or 4 presses...
Does it look really awfully, it just
looks
grubby, ugly,
tacked,
horrible?
doesn't
Yeah.
That's the part that probably... I think I can almost cope with the fact that I'm having to take my eye briefly off the screen, as long as I'm not having to program like the space shuttle just to get to the ventilation. But the grubbiness of it, you turn it off, the screen goes dark, and all you can see is all these sort of bullet marks of fingerprints all over the place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you on that one. But then I would agree with you because it was on my list, which means I've had to come up with another one, which is really easy, to be honest. And more vehicles, of course, have this. I'm guessing some bikes do. Keyless.
Oh.
So my Renault, of course, I think the card that you get...
It's like a flat credit card looking
I think
thing.
they came out in the 90s, because I'm sure like Megane Scenics and Meganes and stuff had them. In principle, it's fine. It's a card. But again, a couple of obvious things. Number one, it's a card with a battery in it. And because it's a card with a battery in it, the battery needs to be working. Whereas a key, as in a good old-fashioned key...
You don't need a battery.
No battery required, was it?
Absolutely.
So that alone is a no-no for me. You've got that thing on some vehicles, not the Renault to be fair, but on some where if you walk away and let it automatically lock because you've walked away, how confident are you that it's automatically locked? Now on my Renault, and your Nissan probably does the same, if it's keyless. Is it keyless?
It's keyless, yeah.
When I walk a certain distance from the Clio, you'll hear it lock and you'll hear a beep to confirm it's locked.
The fact that you can leave it and walk away and it would lock when you're, say, 20 metres away, implies that that's what some people probably do.
Yeah.
And that scares the shit out of me because that's just like asking for trouble.
Yeah, but it's the dumbing down again that we mentioned earlier, isn't it? It's
Hell,
making
guys,
it simple.
Don't bother to lock your car.
We'll
do it for you.
Don't put the handbrake on because we'll do it for you.
Christ
don't lock
almighty.
it, we'll do it for you. Don't put your headlights on, we'll do it for you. We're going to have a bit more of that in a minute.
Yeah.
So, but my second most obvious point, and let's be honest, Land Rover suffered the biggest because of the value of the cars. So easy to steal.
Yeah.
You get the dudes in the black hoodies, scanner, waving it around at the front of the house like a flag, and before you know it, the lights come on and the car's gone. Okay, there's an argument, sorry to jump in, where it's like, yes, but do you really want the same muppets breaking into your house to get a physical key? No, I don't. But look how easy that technology has enabled the theft of that car.
The only real bugbear stroke friggin' annoyance I have with my car, and I think all cars have got this. I don't know what the word is for it, but
It's a frigging annoyance, apparently.
automatic wash wipe.
Okay.
Not the wash wipe, but automatic wipers. Rain sensitive, whatever they're called.
Yep, which I did bring. Does your Triumph bike have that? Only joking.
I know how to use the wash wipes and turn them on when I want to turn them on. Everything outside of intermittent is fine because it's all manual. I know understand all of that. When I put it on intermittent, in the old days, on my old Toyota, I put it on intermittent and there'd be 3 or 4 different variants.
Yeah, so like 3 seconds, 4 seconds.
Whatever. So I could control that.
Yep.
With regards to what's going on.
I think the problem with the automatic wipers is we kind of know best how much we want it to wipe.
Of course we know best.
So you can have it where an automatic wiper's going mental.
Yes.
And
there's bugger all rain on the screen.
And we actually think to ourselves, you know what, it doesn't really need to be going that fast.
No.
You're wearing my poor wiper motor out quicker. And there's other times where it's like, you know what, you're not really quite doing it enough.
No.
It comes back down to we're all individuals and we all do things differently. My last one then for this video is nice and simply automatic high beam. Now,
I didn't even know that was a thing.
God, he's such a bike person, isn't he? It's a good job I'm here to bring the car.
Well, the thing is, as much as they want to mollycoddle or dumb down bikers, they obviously decide they want to do it to car drivers first or more.
Yeah.
Because they don't do it as much to us.
Then we can kill ourselves off and there'll be more space on the roads for bikes. I get the logic.
Yeah.
So, I admit that the technology has improved.
You mean it hasn't
automatic high beam does exactly what. And again, it's something you can turn on and you can turn off. Earlier versions, of course, like everything, like rain sensing wipers, they were a bit more unpredictable in the early days. They have got the technology pretty much sorted now, but it's still not perfect. What automatic high beam is doing, of course, is it's got like effectively a camera that's looking forward, and if it sees headlights or street lights, any lighting,
it'll turn them down.
It'll turn them down.
Right.
And then, of course, when you go into the darkness, it automatically turns them on. In principle, I get that, but I have a scenario in my head that almost happened to me once, and I can't think exactly where I was, where there was a car waiting to come out of a junction. It was obviously unlit, otherwise it wouldn't have been on. There was a car waiting to come out of a junction. I'm coming down. Because the car was at 90 degrees angle, my high beam decided to come on. And there was a split second where my lights went brighter, where you could tell that the driver of that car thought I was flashing him to come out. Because the computer said, oh yeah, there's nothing there, I'll put the high beam on.
Yeah, wow. I think that sounds very dangerous.
I would prefer to control my high beam. And because I'm one of those old school people that actually don't like to blind people, and I'm very aware that my high beam is on. I know why there's a blue light on my dashboard. Have you noticed there's always a blue light? Other warning lights seem to change sometimes, but there's always been a blue light for the high beam.
And have you noticed that how many people are not aware
that it's still on? I'm one of those people that are careful, and normally, even from the distance, round the corners, you can tell there's a car coming or a bike coming, and I turn it off. With automatic high beam, of course, it has to kind of wait until the car is there. And then you've got that split second decision of, am I going to wait and let the high beam system sort it out, or am I going to leave it and it's not going to do it and the guy's going to flash because I haven't turned my high beam down? So just give me back the control and let me use the last of the brain cells that technology allows me to use and do it myself.
I understand about the automatic turning lights on because I've got lazy now that I've discovered it on my car.
For when it's dark.
So I don't have to bother turning my car lights on. It does it automatically, which I agree with that because as far as I'm concerned, that's almost foolproof. If it's dark,
it is dumbing down though.
Agreed. But it's one less thing I need to worry about. But it's not. Is it really dumbing down? Do I need to?
Because it means you're not having to think about turning your lights on. And there's a point to that. If I can digress a little, there's a point to that. Old cars.
Yep.
Dashboard.
Right.
Clocks, not electronics.
Yeah.
No lights on, i.e. headlights.
Yep.
No lights on dash.
Yes. Put
Modern
the lights
car,
on.
turn the key on, and your dash is lit, whether your headlights are on or not. So again,
you're right.
means more and more people don't even notice that their headlights are not on because their dashboard is lit.
Yeah.
What happened to the good old days where the dashboard would be in darkness because you hadn't put your headlights on?
Yeah, thinking about it, my old Toyota had that.
So the
dash would only light up when you put your lights on.
So on my Clio, the dash will be lit,
yeah,
irrespective of what's happening. So I guess from a safety point of view, I kind of get the logic. I kind of do get the logic. However, it is a dumbing down.
Yeah,
and although the technology has improved, I have followed vehicles before with that setting on, where they've gone through some tree lines or something, and you can see the tail lights come on because it thinks it's gone dark.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you'd think the technology would understand that. And then they come out the tree line, and of course the lights go off. There's a dumbing down going on here, isn't there?
Yeah, massive dumbing down.
And that's not helpful.
No, because it's making us all like go round in our little bubbles.
It's almost, if you had it on a graph, AI is becoming exceedingly clever, and what's going to be competing against it is becoming even dumber.
I mean, artificial intelligence is on the rise, and human intelligence is on the
decline. So there's only one outcome,
yeah.
isn't there? And I think earlier you mentioned briefly Skynet.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everyone. See you on the next one.
Cheers.